Faces lit up by their screens, play confined unknown.
And we're back with part 2 of the interview with Nashville-based musician Will Kimbrough, who has a new album called Spring Break. It's releasing on October 23rd. Will is a singer-songwriter, excellent musician, and a producer who is always in demand, a real musician's musician. Hopefully you caught part 1 of the interview last week, and now this episode of Freedom Sings Musicians Talk Activism and Social Change once again features the ultra-talented Will Kimbrough. I'm Tim W. Jackson, your host on this show, and I want to jump right back in and pick up where we left off last week. And there certainly is so much divide, and like you say, the social media battles rage on, and I know you've got pretty good Twitter game as well. So tell me a little bit about sort of what your kind of philosophy is to, what line do you try to walk with social media and expressing yourself, but not getting into these, crazy social media battles that seem to be so pervasive these days?
Well, my oldest daughter, who's way to the left of me, she's 25, and she's a hardcore Bernie girl and AOC, and I'm not far away, but still she's younger, and I'm older, I'm dad, and so I can't be radical enough for her, but she's smart, and I told her, she knows who the song's about, and she knows the family, and so she wrote me a note and said, "I like your new song, Pops," and I said, "Thanks," and I said, it's hard to not just write people off in one way, and in the other way, it's like you treasure the friendship, and you feel this kind of like, and now that I put a song out about it, and so there was some screaming coming from the left the other night about how can you write these nice things about these people, and then from the right it was like, I don't like that last line that says, "I know that I'm above you, but I'll always ever love you still, my right wing friend," and I had to say I didn't say anything, because that's my stance now. It's like, I already said it. I wrote a song and I put it out there. It's on Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora, Amazon, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So I have a big microphone turned up to 10, and I'm saying what I think. In my case, this song literally says, "I love you and I always will, my right-wing friend," through the glory days of Reagan, in Old Bush 41, from Bill and Hill to W, we sprinted towards the sun, and now the sunset is in view. I'm older, going gray, and so are you. It's the story time will always tell. We all become exaggerated versions of our parents and ourselves. And then, through 8 years of Obama, we raised our bright-eyed kids. For a while, we put off politics and we screwed down tight the lid. We took our families on vacation to the beautiful Blue Ridge, laughing, hiking, talking, nighttime cold beers in the fridge, happy memories of a way back when, my right-wing friend. So if you even take a look at any of the lyrics, it's just about, we've been friends. And it's the first line. We've been friends a million years, so long I can't recall. From smart-ass teenage buddies to middle-aged dads here in the fall of life. Our wives still pretty, grown-up kids, comfortable houses, in good neighborhoods with good enough careers. I love you and I always will, my right-wing friend. So if anybody actually listens to it or reads it, they have to know that it's just nothing but affection.
Right.
Despite the description of the going through the times from the 80s, from 1980 all the way to 2020, and so that's my take on it. Is, and my daughter said, if you feel the need, if the friendship needs to remain, then you have to honor that. Mm-hmm. And then I love a quote by Joe Strummer, and he said, "Without people, you got nothing." And he was talking about greed, and he said, there'll always be greed. They should put a big billboard up at Times Square, but he said, without people, you got nothing.
Right.
And I think that's what I believe. Now, that's the thing about social media is, and it allows us to all go, the media this, the media that, but it's like now we're the media.
Mm-hmm.
Social media is media. So if you're on there, you're the media. So how can you, I don't know. It's always comes down to just us and what we want to do, because we are free to do pretty much what we want to do. I can't go to the grocery store without a mask on anymore. You know what? I need to wear a mask in the grocery store, so I wear it. But that's just my take on it. And from, the point of view of a bunch of scientists who know more than I do. But anyway, I want to keep my friends.
Right.
And the opinions are like, but they're also, they're not, your opinion doesn't really hurt anybody. But there's, it's rough times, whatever side you're on, it's rough times to go to a family gathering. Maybe we're lucky right now because can't go to as many family gatherings as you used to.
Right.
But anyway,
Yeah.
I'm still a peace and love guy, and
Mm-hmm.
there's things in the world that I don't like, and there's things in the world that I still love, but and the things that I love are, my family and my friends and music and communicating with people and getting the interesting stories of whoever. So I think if you only hang out with one kind of person, then you're only going to get a certain kind of story. And
right.
So I'm trying to keep an open mind.
Right. Well, and the Joe Strummer quote about if you don't have people, you don't have anything, reminds me again, going back to your situation and musicians everywhere who are used to being around people and playing in front of people so often on a nightly basis, and then all of a sudden that's taken away from you. And I know that you've done a pretty regular job. Started off as Pollen Fest back in the spring with your front porch concerts, and it has kind of evolved since then. And we've seen the disco ball and guests and everything. But for those who may not know about it, kind of tell us a little bit about what you've been doing on your Saturday evening live streams, and do you have plans to continue that for the foreseeable future?
I'm continuing. Pretty much every Saturday, I play on my porch, and my neighbors come out. And I've even had people, email me and say, "Hey, we're going to be in town from wherever, and would be okay if we brought our chairs and come over." So we've had people from Hilton Head and California and South Florida, and and then just not as far away, but like Birmingham and various places pop in, and it's cool, but also it's a good thing for our neighborhood. Needed it. I think we needed some reason to get together in the neighborhood, so we get together and everybody just sort of sits out, spread out on the street. And I wish there was a way to see that easier on a Facebook Live, but I just have the phone and a microphone. So but I've been playing every Saturday, and I try to mix it up and have themes. For Labor Day, I had no sad songs. I've done all the Bushman songs, all the Biscuit songs, all the Daddy songs. I've had my guests, and I'll have some more guests. I'm going to keep it going. One thing that's good about it is I've learned that playing online is a valid thing. And so I'm excited about continuing to do that. It may be over time, hopefully like maybe once a month or something. But for now, people in the neighborhood are like, I look forward to Saturday night at 6 p.m. Central, we walk down the street, and then I've got regular folks online that watch it. And so I think it's been good, for all those reasons about music that we know, that it's fun, it's social, it's therapeutic, and it's fun.
Right. And I know people can catch it on your Facebook page for sure, but is it Instagram and other places as well?
I just do it on Facebook right now. I need to, one thing I need to do is probably start doing it from a laptop, from a PC or something.
Right.
I'm working on that sort of infrastructure, because if I did it that way, I could send it out to different ways. Right now, it's only on Facebook.
Okay.
And I
And
also started a Patreon thing
at 6 Central. Is that right?
6 Central. That's right. Saturday nights at 6 Central.
Right.
And I started a Patreon, which is the sort of people subscribe to your creative content, and that's been a great thing too, because I had wanted to start that for years. So I do online shows through Patreon for patrons, and I release new music to them, and I do videos. I even have some students now. I've got some songwriting students and a guitar student, and so it's, I mean, as a long old time, freelance, self-employed, just person, I sort of reinvented a lot of stuff. It's interesting to me. I mean, like I said, I mean, nobody wants to say they like it, but I do think our household is thriving as well as we can in this time,
right?
Because we're both self-employed and we know how to just make work happen. And
Mm-hmm.
my work is to create out of life and just make songs up and make up guitar parts and mandolin parts and keyboard parts for people and put it on there. I've played on probably 4 or 5 people's albums during this time.
Mm-hmm.
Shamika's album's coming out. I've been doing songwriting with soldiers retreats and working with veterans, combat veterans who are diagnosed with post-traumatic stress and are trying to experience post-traumatic growth. And so I'm working in a program that veterans get into called PATH, and it's an alternative treatment for PTSD to allow you to live without all the meds.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a long program people have to take. It's an 18-month program, and I've come in early in the program, and we do a songwriting night. Mm-hmm. And we're, folks are encouraged. They don't have to. They tell me their stories, and I'm listening and getting the stories together, and then I'm listening for the song and the stories, and also the sort of theme so I may sit with up to 8 veterans at a time and hear all their stories, and we write one song. And so it teaches me, it teaches me a lot. Right. But it shows them that someone can listen without judgment to a combat veteran's story, and also can take their story and take multiple people's stories and find the common ground and then distill it into something that can be sung in 3 or 4 minutes, and they can sing along with, and then they can have the lyrics and the recording and a video and photographs from that experience, so that they have an experience of sharing a combat veteran story with a civilian and not having the experience of feeling judged, mm-hmm. or like you've made someone afraid of you, or that the soldier can't trust the citizen to just not judge.
Right.
And then also a song is something you've taken. It doesn't solve problems, songwriting, but it allows you to start processing the chaos of life and just sort of put it in a little form, make some order out of chaos. And even if it's temporary, you can return to it. So that's a great thing. And that's my first flights and long drives were to Songwriting with Soldiers. There's PATH programs all over the country now. So I'm working in Florida and Georgia and South Carolina with veterans.
And you've worked with that program for several years,
3
right?
years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I remembered reading a while back that you were doing that, which is great. Great work. So I'm sure it has been quite an experience and a lot of stories over the course of 3 years.
Yeah, I need to make a record of the songs that I've written with soldiers. Right. I'm working on that and how to do that. Mary Gauthier made a great record, mm-hmm. Rifles and Rosary Beads. They got nominated for a Grammy, and she did a TED Talk based out of that experience. Based out of her whole experience, but mm-hmm. the album was sort of the impetus for the TED Talk, and she's writing a book right now. And she, I played on Rifles and Rosary Beads, and she said to me during the recording, she goes, "Why don't you do Songwriting with Soldiers?" And I said, "Well, I'm happy to do it. How do I do it?" And so she said, "Well, I'll tell Darden Smith, who's the founder," and then Darden called me, and Radney Foster called me, and James House and Gary Nicholson. So all those people work with Songwriting with Soldiers. So I just said, "Yeah, you keep calling me, but all I'm going to do is say yes." So I've gotten to do it, and I've become a PATH guy, which is a little bit different thing from the thing I started out doing, which is these Songwriting with Soldiers Retreats, which is a weekend, and it's intense, but the path is distilled down into this like 36-hour period where you show up at night and write a song, and then you get up the next morning and go back in and talk about, you know, a brief sort of rewriting, editing, like the process of writing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you leave and go home. So you get home 24 hours or so after, 30 hours after you left home. Mm-hmm. My wife's always like, when you do path, you're like a certain kind of wrung out, you know?
Right.
But really happy. I'm really happy, but I'm just zonked, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure it's pretty draining,
but exhilarating all at the same time.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, I'm jacked up and exhausted, you know?
Right.
Which is what I guess a state that you can't maintain for very long. But when we all know that feeling, whether you're on a road trip or
mm-hmm.
whatever it is. And but the main thing is the human experience of hearing that primal story of coming home from war. It always has a common thread through it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's, and then also has the individual lives, and you know, you get so much from it. I mean, it's just like you're just like diving into a ocean of human, you know, hearts and minds and lives. So it's really kind of a songwriter's dream job.
Yeah. Obviously, it's a lot of emotion and heartfelt, which is exactly what songwriters do, writing from experience, which is what you do, and which is what you've done on your new album. Let's see if the virtual background will mess it up this time. Oh, there it is.
There we go.
Yeah.
Now, so that spring, the broken spring on the front is because my idea was 2020, spring 2020, the world broke and everybody took a break. So I called it Spring Break. And but I had my oldest daughter draw that spring, and then my youngest daughter took the photographs, and then my neighbor down the street did the album design, and I recorded it all in my little studio in the backyard. So it's truly a homemade, project. And
there it is.
And it's, so like I said, I'm putting it out on CD and vinyl and all that good stuff. So I'm excited about it. And there's something freeing about, a lot of people are making records right now. I was working with Ryan Colwell yesterday on finishing his new album. And he just said, and everybody that does it's like, I don't know if this is a good idea or a bad idea, but I'm like, well, you have songs, you know, you need something to do. So,
right.
You know, you just do your music, and then, you know, you can decide when to put it out. But I think people that love music want music, and people that make music love to make music. So
right.
It's still out there. I mean, you know, anyway, I'm excited about, I'm proud of the record, and I like that it was done in this, it is literally a record of a time for me. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, it goes back, some of the songs I wrote, you know, 20 years ago, and never put out a version of my own.
Right.
And I'm really happy about that, because one of the songs, well, the next single is the late great John Prine Blues.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a COVID song, and it's a song about John Prine, and it's a song about, you know, quarantine, which I know is a COVID thing, but it's also like about family. Like, I remember I was taking a walk with my youngest daughter, who's now back in Knoxville. Mm-hmm. She's not going to class, but we had already signed a lease on an apartment. So we just said, go live in your apartment. And, but we were taking a family walk, which is, you know, your 19-year-old child is on a, you know, summer night, not really normal for them to be out walking with you. You know, they're usually out with their friends. And we're taking a walk, and my phone kind of blew up that John Prine had passed. Mm-hmm. But we were having such a nice walk on this beautiful summer night that I didn't want to spoil the walk, so I waited until the end of the walk. And it's almost like the song was writing itself in my head, because I was trying not to talk about it. So my brain was just, you know, when you're trying to wait till the right moment to say something and just carry on and act like everything's normal.
Right.
And then when I got to the house and we opened the door and went inside and shut the door, I said, John Prine died, you know, and everybody was like, turns to me, they're like, you know, and my daughter and my wife, their eyes just filled up with tears, and there it was. So anyway, so that's going to be a single. And then the folks that I work with, Soundly, that do the distributing, they really wanted to release the song Home Remedy as a single, because they feel like that is a song for these times. Even though I wrote that almost 20 years ago with Adrienne Young.
Right.
And
I love her version of it. It's one it's one of her favorite songs, or my favorite songs of hers. Yeah. And that I know that you as a co-writer on, you appear in the video for that song from way back when. And I was happy. I was just kind of listening to it while I worked and hadn't looked at the tracks yet. And that song came on. I was like, wait a second, where do I know this song? I'm like, that's the Adrienne Young song. So I think that would be a fantastic single. So,
and it's, you know, it's cool. So we'll probably do that right before the record comes out. And then, you know, I did Rocket Fuel, which I wrote with Todd Snyder. And I played it live for years, but I never released it. And I did a solo mandolin version. And I'm just glad, you know, life gives you weird opportunities sometimes. And sometimes you just have to, you know, smile and say, I accept it, you know. Right. So I made this record. I would have recorded these songs anyway, but the world being what it is right now, it enabled me to release this kind of record this way. So in that way, I'm thankful for that opportunity. I've got plenty to choose from at this point. I've got the 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010. I'm into my 5th decade of making records, which is crazy, but it's beautiful because it's still fun and still feel like playing a little rock and roll, country, blues music, you know.
Right. Well, we're certainly happy that you're continuing to play music and put out music. The new album Spring Break coming out October 23rd. I would say for everyone to look for that, buy it, ideally. Also, while you're out there buying albums, buy Shamika Copeland's on the same day. So that's October 23rd as well. So yeah, Will, it's always a pleasure to speak to you. And like I say, one of my favorites going way back to the days of like the stage of Ivory Tusk and places like that in Tuscaloosa. Oh, yeah. And festivals and the Nick in Birmingham and all those kind of places. So, glory days. So yeah, it was definitely some good times then, and still some great music that you're putting out now, and more poignant music with this album, especially for the time that we're living in now. So I just want to say thanks for being a guest here on the show, and thanks for continuing to put out great music and for helping other people put out great music, because I know you play on so many albums and do some producing, like with Shamika's album, in fact. So again, thanks for all you're doing within the music industry, and just keep it going.
Well, I love to do it. It's a great opportunity, and Lord knows I try. But I'm glad we got to do this. This is a great show, and I love what y'all are doing.
Great. Well, thank you so much. All right, I appreciate it. Take care.
You too.
3 women way out on the ledge. One shouted, "What's the use?" The keened and cried a Galway song, the late great John Prine blues.